Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Nathan video, and hopefully I can get my point across clearly and concisely. But before we get into the video, I'm going to claim another 3 to 4 seconds of your life with, you guessed it, the THC work in progress intro, which hasn't been worked on anymore yet. So then guys, excuse the sort of budget bodge job drawing tool that I'm using. It's just a Windows one. So what we'll do is I'll press play and we'll get into it. So the first one I'm just going to play from the start of the fight and sort of get into the mindset of what we want to start thinking about. So obviously the first 20 seconds is an absolute DPS fest. Just get your damage out there. What we can see on the timers in the centre of the screen is we've got Darkness with Roiling Deceit. So Darkness will last about 10 seconds, and just offset from that we'll have Roiling Deceit. So we're going to have 2 out of 3 Roiling Deceits having to be placed while Darkness is active. So if you're one of the first 2 to get it, your mindset is to, while the Darkness comes in, and I'm going to pause it here, while Darkness comes in, there's my pen. If you've got Roiling Deceit, you want to be travelling around this side of the ring, and the reason for that is Darkness is going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to come into the middle, excuse the really poor arrow, or out to the side. So keeping that in mind, and the first example, if I can get the eraser tool to work, there we go. The first example is Wob doing it absolutely spot on, so I'm going to let it play through. So Wob's got the second Roiling Deceit. He goes outside, excuse the screen, and you'll see him go around the ring, and the last Roiling Deceit, the last Darkness, is going to drop here, and he's safe. And what Wob's done there is he's allowed for other people that are stuck in a situation later on in the fight to drop their Darkness around here and into the other crevices of the map. So that's a job well done by Wob, and if we just play, it's simple enough to get back into the fight. He's got all of that room, all of that space, making sure he doesn't go in front of the tanks in case he gets cleaved down. So that's one really good example. Now then, this is example 2. I think this is the one where we don't do so well. So I'm going to play it through. Darkness comes in, and our mindset is, if we've got Roiling Deceit, we want to be going around the side. However, everyone comes into the middle, so that's the perfect time. That's the perfect time, if I just go back a bit, for those people with Roiling Deceit to get to this side, because the path is clear. So Runatic, sorry to be calling guildies out here, but you know, the proof's in the pudding and we're going to learn from this. So Runatic, what Runatic should have done was move to this spot, and then he can use the other side of the room. But we'll play and we'll see what happens. So we've got, there's the third Roiling Deceit, so Soul Devourer can drop it, sorry, Sevler can drop it later than the other 2. But what we'll have here is, we're going to have Roiling Deceit drop here. And this is the first Roiling Deceit of the encounter. Now this is extremely bad and poor because the chances of people running into this is incredibly high. As you can see, well, unfortunately I can't turn my map, but if they placed it further up into where Zek'Voz spawns, they would have kept the space clear. So I'll just erase that off once more. There. So next situation. So Darkness comes in, standard crack. Here we go. Right, so Roiling Deceit. Right, we're inside. So what we want to see people doing is, nighttime panic there. He went back and he's had to pop a movement cooldown to come back into the centre. I'd imagine a lot of raiders, when they get Roiling Deceit, when Darkness hits, their natural reaction is to get as far away as possible. We can't afford to do this in Mythic because we need to make sure we stay safe. And nighttime's a healer, so it's especially important he keeps himself safe. So he's used the cooldown to get back on track, which is great. And he runs through, spot on, but we had other people with Roiling Deceit, and you can see me coming through with those plays to sort of like highlight what we need to do. So there we go, nighttime's there. Khalida has done a fantastic job of getting back. I'm just going to pause it and go back. However, she didn't get any heals. She could have ice blocked, but you know, these things happen. But the point is, we had 2 out of the 3 Roiling Deceits ready to drop in the north room, so that's perfect. So after this pull, what we started doing is we started sending our monk to go to this end of the room to start healing those with the Roiling Deceit. So great job Khalida, great job nighttime. Panicked, but then used the cooldown, realised what he needed to do and got back with it. So spot on there, guys. Right, and then we'll go back into the room, back into the fight, not like avoiding being in front of the tanks. And then obviously I-beams next. So next one, standard crack, darkness coming in. Right, so Wobb's got it again, but Wobb's been doing it correct all night. And then we've got Sol, who's our GM. Tut Sol. So, like I say, this is our monk. He hasn't got Roiling Deceit, but he's in the perfect position to heal those that have Roiling Deceit. Now we've got Khalida and Sol, so we've got 2 ranged toons and Wob. So that's Khalida, that's Sol. So these 2 here should be up, ready to drop Roiling Deceit here, or even behind Roll, because Roll can stand there. But tunneling is a thing, and at this point of the night I think people are pretty tired. It's no excuse though. So what we'll see is, we'll probably see some bad placement by these 2 guys. Obviously Wobb's in the right place, and we've also got Roll just ready to heal those Roiling Deceit plays. So there we go. Now hopefully I can get the camera to pause. Do I spin round? No. So the reason why I wanted to try and spin the camera around was on that pull we had Roiling Deceit here. Again, it's a good enough placement, but is it Mythic placement? I would say no. The reason for that is we want to fill this part of the room with the Roiling Deceit first, and the reason for that is when it comes to the last final phase, as you're progressing, you're going to collect the orb that spawns on Moon. That player faces it to cross, and then every time it lands on cross, the other player just faces it into the wall, which keeps the darkness orb on that location. Now then, when people lose the damaging buff from that mechanic, they start fearing people if they're not dealt with quickly. Now, why that is critical is, if someone stood, say, let's change the colour to red. If someone's here and they've got fear, and we've got darkness, sorry, if we've got Roiling Deceits all around here because people have been lazy at the early game, then someone's going to get feared into that, and we're going to spawn ads in a phase we definitely don't want ads. No, wrong button. So I'll just delete all that, and then we'll play this clip. So darkness coming in, Roiling Deceit on Tom, Roiling Deceit on myself, and again, what we'll do here is, it's going to happen where your Roiling Deceit is going to have to be dropped in this little circle. Now Tom, I think that's Tom, is in a position where he can chance being stood in this darkness for an extra second to drop it a little bit further out, but I would always suggest playing it safe. Now I've got Roiling Deceit, and for the purpose of showing people what I would want to see happen, I've got time to run it off after darkness into that corner or up this way, but for the purpose of the video I've just stood, and obviously Tom's placed it there. That's the best he could do. The important factor is he's still alive, and I could have moved mine further away. So I'm just going to go back. So Roiling Deceit. So at this point you've got Roiling Deceit, and the middle ring or the center ring is present, so it's going to go one of two directions. We're going to have to go drop it up here, preferably in one of the corners, so then we can start utilizing the other space, or as we saw in that clip, we'll have to drop it here. But remember, on the first Surge of Darkness, you've got 3 players that get Roiling Deceit. 2 of those will have to be dropped whilst darkness is happening, and then the 3rd person will have an extra 2 seconds to go further and past that. Right, I'm a bit conscious that this video is getting a little long, but we'll carry on. So again, just to reiterate that point, Tom's played it safe, which is what you want. You don't want people dying on your first Roiling Deceit. Right then, another clip, just to reinforce the point. Darkness coming in. Right, we've got one on Roll. I believe Roll on this attempt was the only person to have bothered to put it up north. So you can see Roll up here. He's got all of this space to drop it in, and then anybody else that decided to go that way to drop their Roiling Deceit could have been in here or on the other side, and could have really maximised the space. But instead, we're still tunneling on the boss. The boss health is important, but what's more important is to make sure that as many of your Roiling Deceits are up in this area as possible to make the last part of the fight from 40% to 0 as open as possible in this part. So let's press play. So Roll comes into the inner ring and back out. So he's saved his houses and he's laughing. So what we see here is, we see, right, if I just press play from there. So we see our priest that got caught up in healing the group run it off over here. Now it isn't bad. It's not bad, but whilst the middle ring was active, he could have just ran, and he could have been placing it there, making it, like, again, this is the first Surging Darkness, so we're using this space first. We'll want to get, like I keep saying, we'll want to make sure we fill this first before we fill the part of the room we're using. Now I appreciate other people will be doing slightly different tactics, that's absolutely fine, but let's get Roiling Deceit as far away from the group as possible, and these crannies aren't far enough away. Right, I believe this is the last one. Oh, it's part of the same pull, so I think this is the ads. Now then, the reason why I've highlighted this one is we've got Roiling Deceit coming in 50, no, we've got Roiling Deceit active now. So this is the second Roiling Deceit of the encounter. It's important we kill the Void Weavers, yes, but is it worth dropping Roiling Deceit around this area when we can actually go up here and utilize all of that room and make sure that we keep this entire space free? So I'll see if I can pause the video at a better angle. So Holiday and Oz, where do they drop their Roiling Deceit? Tom as well. Right, so we can see the guys they've kept hold of Roiling Deceit. They're keeping up uptime. Now if they're managing it correctly, that's brilliant, but what you have the danger of is when you get Roiling Deceit, because it is 10 seconds long, there's a great opportunity for you to like not act on that, do some damage, and I think what we see here, there we go, perfect example. I want to maximize my uptime, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get as much juicy cleave on this boss. Oh wait a second, I've just dropped Roiling Deceit there. This is a big issue because we've got all of this space up this way free, but we've dropped it here. Now obviously this pull was a wipe. Now it'll be interesting to see where the other two gentlemen place their Roiling Deceit. So we've got a rogue. Actually I'll pause that there because the other two guys, let's just play from there. Oh, I don't think I can get that last clip. Let's try one more time, guys. Budget build video. Right. There we go. So we saw a Roiling Deceit here. I'll get back on the pen. A Roiling Deceit here, and we're going to see our third player dropping about here, which is absolutely perfect because as the fight goes on, the Roiling Deceit does creep a little bit, so they might end up here by the end of the fight, but they've freed up all of that space. And the reason why I thoroughly enjoyed watching these two guys drop their Roiling Deceit up here is more people can drop their Roiling Deceit. So if we've got one here, we can have players drop one there or there, you know, and it's all about just trying to create as much space as possible within the encounter. And I believe that is the end of the video. So just to reiterate, as we start, our first Surging Darkness, you want to get 3 Roiling Deceits anywhere here. Get them right in the corner to allow for more people to have that option to drop it up there. So if you can master doing that on pull, now every pull you might not be able to get it there, you might have to drop them here or here, which makes the room a bit tight, but every pull it's going to change, so we've just got to react to it. But try and keep this part of the room, these crevices, clear until the back end of the fight, because you won't have the luxury of running up here at the end of the fight, because it's more important to get through the DPS check. And if you've started dropping Roiling Deceit here and here, you're going to make your raid team work a lot harder to get that kill because space is so much more limited. Anyways guys, I hope this video has helped anybody. I'd have made this just for the guild. However, if you're on Mythic Zek'Voz and you're not part of the Hidden Circle on Bloodhoof EU and this helped you, give us a like, throw us a comment, let us know how you're getting on, because we're just a bang average guild and we're just trying to learn and progress and try and get the cutting edge achievement. Anyways guys, cheers for watching, thanks for your time, and I'll see yous in one for Vectors probably. Ciao for now.